Today I'm going to review and share some of the features of the Defiant in-wall 3-way daylight adjusting 7-day programmable timer model 32648. If you already have this timer and just want to know how to set up or program it, I'll put a link up here at the top on your right side, and I'll also post the link details in the information section below. I'm not going to show you how to install the timer, although I will talk about it and the power specifications in a moment. Regarding installation though, it's important to note that you will need to have access to a neutral wire in the switch box in order for the timer to work properly. If you don't know what that means, or you get in the switch box and see a mess of wires you can't identify, please do yourself a favor and just call a licensed electrician. If you want to see if you have a neutral wire in the switch box, first turn off power at the breaker, open the switch box, and if there are only 2 wires and likely a ground, this timer will not work for you. So in choosing a timer, my criteria were an inexpensive, in-wall, programmable timer that would automatically turn on our outside lights in the evening and then turn them off around bedtime. I also wanted to be able to override the programs, for example, when I simply want to turn on and off the lights myself. I didn't need a fancy Wi-Fi smart switch, which would allow me to turn the lights on or off remotely using a smartphone or an app. So at $19 from my local Home Depot, this Defiant timer provided all the functionality I needed. The timer allows me to store up to 7 individual programs, which means, for example, I can set different on-off times for each day of the week, or I could even set 7 on-off times within a single day, which can then be applied to any combination of days in a week. Again, though, keep in mind there are only 7 individual programs. The timer also has a random function, which turns the lights on and off within 30 minutes of its programmed time to give you the appearance that someone's home, and also has a countdown to off feature, which turns the lights off after a specific amount of time. Lastly, once properly set up, the timer automatically adjusts for daily sunrise and sunset times for your location. So it basically has a dusk till dawn feature, meaning it turns on at dusk and off at dawn, but this occurs using time values versus an outdoor sensor light that uses a light sensor to turn a fixture's power on and off. The timer comes with both white and light almond faceplates, and the cover when closed is an override switch, and it works like a push button on-off switch. So let's talk about the ratings. The timer can be used with incandescent bulbs, LEDs, CFLs, and ceiling fans, and while the front of the package says 15 amp, 120 volts, 1800 watts, when you refer to the back of the package, it shows that it's 120 volts AC, 60 hertz, which is normal for the US, 15 amps resistive, but actually rated for 10 amps for tungsten, which is referring to incandescent bulbs since they use a tungsten filament, 10 amps for a ballast, which is referring to CFL bulbs, and half horsepower motors, which refers to fans. To further confuse you and me, the instructions included inside the package say it's rated for 125 volts AC. Huh? Versus 120? I don't know. At 60 hertz. But again, given electricity in the US is 120 volts AC, 60 hertz, we're okay. Is it a typo? I don't know. I don't want to get too far into math and science here, but what I take away from this is that the timer should be installed on a 15 amp circuit, and if using incandescent or CFL bulbs in the light fixtures, total wattage of all the bulbs should not exceed 1200 watts, which is the 10 amps max rating for incandescent and CFL bulbs times 120 volts. Watts equals volts times amps. The downside to this timer is that while the pretty blue illuminated display isn't too hard to read, you'll need to deal with the tiny buttons. You'll need a pencil or a toothpick. Furthermore, I should point out that the instructions are printed so small that I had to use a magnifying glass to read them, hence why I did the other video on actually how to program it. Let's briefly talk about installation. Installation is pretty straightforward if replacing a single pole switch, and more complicated for a 3-way, but in either case, you'll need a neutral wire in the switch box. As I mentioned before, if you want to see if you have a neutral wire in the switch box, first turn off power at the breaker, open the switch box, and then if there are only 2 wires and likely a ground, this timer will not work for you. Lastly, this timer does not work in 4-way installations. So overall, we really like this product. It was inexpensive. It's made our lives easier. I haven't had it long enough to test longevity, but I will say that I was able to install it myself, and then I had a licensed electrician review my work, and he said, nice job. If this video has been helpful, please do me a favor and like it, and that way other people can find it. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.